size of my brain. That's all. I just need to write a new chapter, and I'm really hung up on the fact that it's like, oh, it's a new chapter and it has to be perfect because this draft is hopefully going to go out to readers. I just got to get through chapter 11 and then I can have a field day adding in all the research that I did. So even though my original like in-person research to Edgerton, it is a site that is now like a national landmark. So it is in very good condition. And it's actually another fun fact is there are still people living there, and they are like people whose mining families had owned these homes. So yeah, personally for me, I don't think I'd want to live there anymore, but I'm just thinking more power to them that there are still, I think, 4 or 5 a couple houses that are active and live in this historic preservation. So, but like I keep telling myself too that like I don't even know why I'm trying to get so bogged down on what it is right now. I can always go back and edit it. I just need to get things out, and I know what's going to be written in this chapter. Like right now we're still like we're setting the foundation that there is a power imbalance in this pseudo relationship. Like they're not really in a relationship, like he rescues her kind of deal. So yeah, I have to just like start to do the inklings of like he's not gonna be a good guy, but it's just, you know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work writing novels.
Hello, easy, how'd you do? Yeah, I've been holding out for you. Goodbye, gray sky, come back blue.
Hi. I don't know if anybody has gotten like canned boba before, but when you don't have like anywhere close by, it's pretty good, to be honest. Oh yeah, that's not why I've gathered you here today. If I decide to keep any of my footage that I've previously filmed for this failed vlog, then for you, it'll be 2 seconds. For me, it's been a month. I started this vlog on September 1st with the full intention that I was going to have a draft completed of my novel. I had full intentions of having draft 2 done by September, and my deadline has been being pushed and pushed and pushed. Within reason, I think. I'm not making excuses, but I do think that I am not always kind to myself, especially when I go through things. And nothing major or bad, I should say, but like definitely like health stuff with family, with my pets, have just been a little chaotic. And I've been kind of in some way using that as an excuse to not write, because I didn't want to admit that I felt kind of stuck in imposter syndrome. I can't even tell you why, but I think I got so caught up earlier in the month with how much I actually do need to edit this novel. And not that it's bad editing by any means. It doesn't mean my first draft is even bad. It just means that I have a vision to make this very strong, and I know I have to put work in. It's not a bad thing, but I think like I got caught up on the fact that I wasn't sure if I could make this right. Like, do I have the chops to write this novel? Am I going to get my vision across the way I see it? Are people going to take fault with what I'm writing? And yeah, so I kind of kept pushing off and pushing off writing more. I got up to chapter 12 throughout the month, and then that's kind of where I halted. And one reason is because I did edit that chapter, and that's the turn of a lot of these heavy edits. And I had, that chapter was previously critiqued in the program that I did, the Reedsy How to Write a Novel course. And I was kind of using that as an excuse to be like, oh, well, that's on my computer at home, and I don't have access to that if I'm like at work or I'm in a car writing. I was just like, oh, I'll just get back to it when I get home. And then I just never did, no matter how many days I was home. So long story short, I just kept putting it off, and the imposter syndrome just set in. I just didn't know if I could do this anymore. So then I was trying to think of maybe different tactics to re-engage my love of this novel because I just kept convincing myself that it wasn't good anymore for seemingly no reason. But I can't really describe that to you. My writing, I just have like a barrier towards it lately, or I had. So I decided that I was going to try something else just to get like, see where I'm going with it. I decided to try to write my query letter. And I kept thinking like maybe that is what I should be doing. Like maybe I just needed to kind of revision where this novel is going. And a query letter is a great way to do that. It's a great exercise to kind of get your vision down. If you can write a query letter on your book, then you know where you're going with that book in theory. So then the week that I was sitting on this and thinking I should do this maybe, a contest came up and it was a part of this society called the Writer Sanctuary. I have probably mentioned them in the past. I've also done a vlog on a conference that they hosted. And I feel like it's a really credible source and it's a really good resource. They post a lot of free things on their page, but they also have this society component to it that's a paid membership fee called the Red Herring Society. And the Writer Sanctuary and the Red Herring Society decided to put on a query contest. And they opened it for 15 days. So from the 15th of September through the 30th. And at that was the point where I was like, well, maybe this is my sign to write this query letter. Like, you do have to pay $25 for this contest. And by the time, whenever and if ever this video goes up, it is going to be closed because I've been sitting on information and stuff in my head because mostly I just didn't know when and what to vlog because I wasn't writing. Everybody who enters this contest basically gets a chance to get feedback for their query letter. You basically like enter and you automatically get feedback for your query, which is awesome. And as much as I know $25 is and can be a lot for people when they're not able to afford most things, paying for query feedback, that is about an even price. I've looked on Readsy and the Fivers and stuff like that, and most of them are in that ballpark anyway. So then they take like, it's kind of like a section. So you have like your semi-finalist, I think it is the top 25. And then you go to your finalist, which is the top 10. And then you have your third, second, and the grand prize. And really, it was the grand prize that incentivized me to really get this query letter down. There's like a ton of amazing stuff. First of all, a 30-minute one-on-one consultation with a literary agent. Not saying that they're gonna sign you, but you get to like talk to them and like talk about the submission process and being agented. And I mean, I'm just looking at this as a hopeful person. Like, that could lead anywhere, right? It's with Root Literary, which is definitely an agency that's been on my list because they are very high esteemed and well respected. But not only do you get that, like you get your detailed letter feedback, you get a 3-chapter feedback from a professional editor, you get a 1-year membership for the Red Herring Society, and then a social media package to help like brand yourself as an author and promote yourself. So like, cool. And like I said, even if you don't get that, you still get like the feedback and everything. So I just figured it would be worth it. But truthfully, I was really terrified about writing the query letter as well because I wrote ones before and I struggled with them. And now that I'm older and wiser, I realized that that was a fault of my novel and not my query letter. Like, I didn't have a strong enough novel to be able to concisely write a query letter. And I think that's where I went wrong. So I kind of told myself that and then like, okay, like look at the 2 novels you queried. I even actually found my very, 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 very first query letter. And oh my God, it was terrible. It was absolutely shit. I don't even know, like, I'm embarrassed for me. I can't even imagine how many literary agents get that type in a day, but oh, no wonder they did not pick me. I didn't talk about my characters at all. So anyway, then I decided to write a shit draft, as one does when you write anything. I got it out. I was in the car with my husband. We were going shopping, but it was a trip we were taking. So it was about an 1.5-hour drive. And I just sat with my iPad and I typed out a shit first draft. I definitely knew it was shit because I literally just recapped like the first 3 chapters. And then in the Writer Sanctuary, when I went to their conference and started following their page, the one author created a query book. And this little guy, I think it was self-published, so I want to say it was like, you know, $15 on Amazon. But this was honestly pretty helpful. Like, I know in theory how to write a query letter, but it's been a while. It's been 2 years since I've queried, and maybe 3 years since I like was writing those query letters initially. And again, remember, they weren't perfect still, but this has a really great step-by-step advice of like what beats you need to hit. Now, I will say I did not follow the simple structure in this query when I got done with my editing, but I definitely, it helped so much. And just some of like the things like if you were going to give yourself like a here's what your query letter needs to say. So like, here's your main character, this is what they're going to do, this is the villain, and this is like what they need to overcome kind of deal. That kind of just jump started me to help write my query. And then there was another line in here that said that basically your query letter should be about 30 to 50% of your book. So it should cover that 30 to 50% mark. And doing that, I was like, oh my God, I know what I need to write now. So I went from my very, very shit draft to my second draft. And that second draft I initially sent to 2 friends who are readers more so. And my one friend had a very, very poor reaction because I should have expected this, but it is not a genre she reads at all. She does not read horror. She does not read dark. That is what this book is. And she's like, this would not be a book I would read. And she didn't know anything. I didn't give her any feedback. I'm just like, hey, if you pick this book off a shelf, what do you think of it? The other friend was like, I'm very intrigued by it. Didn't really have like feedback, but just said that. And so I just asked like, hey, is there any wording? Is there any things that might be changed to make you like it? And of course, like I said, the other friend was like, I won't like this book. But I did take the gist, and I was like, okay, that's still something I could use to be like what turns you off on it? Is there something I can use to tweak it? And I did end up tweaking like, I think 3 or 4 lines in the query, and the query was about 250 words. So not a lot of tweaking from that, but that was my second draft. And then I was like, all right, this contest deadline is coming up. It is currently the 29th of September. The contest is over by tomorrow. I have to submit by tomorrow. So I pulled out my trick that I have told you guys about way in the past. And I was like, let's go to the Reddit forums and let's post my query on pub tips. Now at this point, my friend's negative reaction, even though I know logically it's not a genre she reads, I was really in my head, and that imposter syndrome came back tenfold. I was so in my head and anxious that night. It was terrible. But I was like, I think this is my sign. I got to throw in the towel. Like, I can't, this isn't the book I'm writing. This isn't good. So I was like, well, I'm already down. So let me just throw it up on Reddit and just see what people say. Because at least if I get into the contest, like I know that they're going to give me feedback, but the better my query is, the more likely I will be able to have that grand prize, right? So I posted on Reddit, and I got really, really positive feedback. Like positive that they liked it, like that I did well. And I was like, wait, what? I did well? They had some like minor things to change and like, feedback, but one person was like, this is a really, really great first attempt. I'm sure you edited it so much before you posted it on here. And I was like, but I didn't. So that means I did something right. Like it was just so surreal. And granted, these might be people who are more interested in this book. So God, I got floored. And then like, I just felt so good again. And I know like, I feel like a lot of people go through this flip-flop all the time, but man, like it was such a whiplash from being like, this novel is not good and I'm not going to convey the things I'm conveying, to like people saying, God damn, that's a good query letter. So that just made me so happy. And I'm here now. I'm not going to say I'm going to win. I don't even know how many people are going to enter this contest, but I feel good in what I wrote. So even if I don't win this contest now, I have a goddamn good query letter to send off. So I do have to thank this book. I have to thank the people on Reddit, even though they probably won't like find me. Yeah, the structure I ended up doing was kind of like the 3-paragraph structure. If you have never queried before, this is probably going to sound foreign, but it's basically like 3 paragraphs of your novel. So like one is to introduce your main character, one is to introduce like the villain or the love interest, and then the last paragraph is like what's at stake. I kind of did that, but I broke it up with like one-liners in between. So I did like my first one of like painting the picture of who my main character is, and then what happens to like catalyst the story. And then I kind of give kind of like a rhetorical question, like, oh, this is what it is, right? And then I do my second paragraph to introduce my antagonist and how that affects my main character. And then I did another line of like, this should be fine, right? And then I did my stakes, and I feel really, really good about this query letter in general. I do think it's the best query letter I've ever written in my life. And it just makes me feel like, oh my God, I have a book. Like I do have a book this time. Like it's something that can be queried with a cohesive thought into it, because I struggled so much with writing a query letter in the past. So just being able to like get this down on paper and like feel like reading it out loud like gives me such excitement now. So yeah, that's where I've been. I am going to look over my query, like the second draft that I have tonight, one more time. Basically, the main thing that concerned me, which I think I'm okay now, is that this query letter, including the dear agent, your name, and like your like info paragraph, that all needs to be 300 words. And exactly 300 words. If I was going to query, I would add some of my words back. But I think it is as good as it gets with like minimal wording changes. Like I would add a little bit more to my details section, like the stats and demographics. But I basically took out all the fluff of that paragraph just to condense the words. So I'm really excited. I am not going to share that query right now because it's not actually being queried, and things might change at this point. But I just want to tell you where I've been, because it's been a hot minute and I have not wanted to vlog. But I'm really, really excited to just submit this and see what happens. So currently, this is more of like an update video than a vlog, but I wanted to say that I do feel better about going back into writing my book again. We're becoming into the slow wintry season now. It is already getting chillier and more rainy here in Pennsylvania. So I think I'm going to actually like be able to cozy up and write a lot more now that I'm not being beckoned to be outside as much. So I'm feeling good that like October, November, December, I can really just focus on making this second draft of the novel like the best. And I think it's going to be in my best interest to gather feedback to get readers in the new year and query maybe like early next year instead. If I keep trying to like set deadlines and rush myself through this, I think I'm going to keep pushing back. So I'm just kind of like vaguely going to work on this, but like at the same time, I'm giving myself 3 months right now. Unless I have some snags in life, like I should be okay. So that's where we're at. I had a really good time at the mining village earlier this month. I have thought about my novel here and there, and I've like dabbled. I would open it up and just stare at it. Behind the scenes, which I have not talked about, but I have been working on a secret project that's not so secret, but it is right now. And I have been doing that on the side, so I have been writing. It's just nothing that I'm talking about right now. So I feel like I'm in a good place. It just took me a month to get there again. And that's also why I haven't been sharing anything, because I've just had no idea what to share. So with that said, I'm gonna submit to this contest. So I'm gonna read my query letter one more time, and then I'm gonna jump the gun and I'm gonna do it. So wish me luck.